Let's jump straight into demo with xSkrape for Excel. Here we've got Excel open, and once you've installed the add-in, such as from the Office Store, you can see icons on the data menu. And if I click on the task list button, the xSkrape task pane opens. And I gloss over a few of the details related to installation and setup, since that's fairly self-guided. So now that we've got the add-in pane open, if I click on admin and add examples, we're going to get a bunch of sample data that we can work with to demonstrate a lot of the features of the product. So as an example, get single data is one of the tasks that's been added for us. And if we take a look at how that works, we're coming up with a contrived example here where we're taking an email address and we're converting it into a URL, which we use to go out and grab some information about the email domain. So we have a web page here that we've actually created to go out and grab some basic information about domain registry information. And so in this case for Gmail, let's say just for example, we're actually after the registrant city. So that's available on this web page. But now how do we go from this semi-structured data, which is really just a bunch of text, and we want to get it into Excel? So what we can do with xSkrape is use this task where we use words follow near or words follow after as one of our query expressions. And we document this query language quite thoroughly online. And we've got links within the add-in that will let you get to things like examples and the full reference documentation and so on. So if I click on refresh here, you'll notice it went out and correctly grabbed the data value that we were interested in on the page that we just looked at. So that's an example, and we can extend this to cases where we're retrieving over dozens or hundreds of different cells as an example. We can retrieve data from web tables, and we can retrieve complete web tables as well, our other two data examples. But we're going to kind of skip through those fairly quickly. We feel that we can cover those elsewhere in future videos. But let's jump ahead to the email task. So this is an example where we've got an email address. You can provide your own if you like. And I've got a calculation in this cell. And you can see that in the actual task itself, we reference both. I'm referencing the generated text as well as the email address. And if I were to click send here, it would actually send out what's in cell E29 as a short email. And if I change the email address to my phone number and changed the default provider to, say, my cell carrier, then it's actually going to send it as an SMS message. So again, you can think of scenarios where you can build push alerts directly from worksheets without having to write any code or have any email server infrastructure or so on. That's all handled through the add-in itself. We also support RSS messaging, which is going to be out of scope from this particular demo, but we encourage you to go and check our document library, which has got some really good articles that offer a deep dive into those sorts of tasks that we'll cover elsewhere. So the next thing we're going to talk about are secured ranges. So in this example here, this looks like what could be maybe salary data for employees within our company. And we've got a total, which is simply a sum of those salaries. So if we wanted to share this information more widely, for example, we probably don't want individual salaries showing. So we can do that, the lock on the actual salaries if we so choose. And in this example, we're actually changing the salary values to this in vault value, which indicates that they have been removed, redacted from the spreadsheet. And you can see that the total remains, though, but not as a sum, but the actual value. So if we have data that's somewhat sensitive, maybe the company total is not as sensitive as the individual salary, we can actually support that just simply by clicking that one button. And by clicking the unlock, all of our data is restored the way it was originally, including the sum function. So that's one way to look at securing data. Another way is to say, well, what if the individual salaries are somewhat useful? Maybe they're used for some charting or other kinds of features that the structure of the spreadsheet is important and the presence of that data is important. So another thing we can actually do is secure through obfuscation. So we have an example of that here where we're actually going to take the employee names and we're going to scramble them. So if I click on lock, you can see that the names have changed. Now we've got names that probably don't exist in our company, but it looks realistic, and the salary for individuals has been retained. So again, from a structure standpoint, the only thing that's really changed is the fact that the names no longer match reality. And if I was to share this with someone, they're not going to know, whose salary belongs to who in our actual company, for example. So that's just another example of how we can take security and apply these different concepts and build a fairly powerful tool. And interestingly enough, when you look at the obfuscation element, create random data became a natural additional task that we've created now. So we can actually go and create random data that looks a lot like the obfuscated data that we just looked at. So for example, I'm creating some first names, some last names, and some cities and states. And so we can go out and create tens or hundreds or thousands of rows of sample data that we can use either here in Excel, for demos or what have you, or we can use this and import it into another system if we like, because it's all raw Excel data. We can do whatever we want with it, essentially. So hopefully this has been a good example of the kinds of things that you can do with xSkrape. There's a lot of stuff going on. You're going to see a lot more features evolving rather quickly, and we hope you could come and visit us at xSkrape.com. Thanks very much.